Hey guys, hope your day's going well. Well fellas, I thought I'd do this video here because we've had a lot of discussions about intake since I've been doing this Parker. But I'm kind of leaving out some other details when I talk about intakes, RPM, what carburetor to run, what cam, and all that stuff. There's just too much to cover in what little bit of time I'm on the channel here. But what I did want to do is try to make another segment and cover a couple things. So you could ask a guy like me, what intake you think's the best one? You've had a lot of them. Well, and I would maybe even forget the fact that a lot of times when I talk, we're using a 5-speed car. So something you would do to a dual plane, like cut the divider down or make the plenum bigger, would affect automatic car more than it would with something that you're bringing the RPM up in the 3,000 plus range off the starting line. So you keep that in mind, guys, when you're doing something. Some of the intakes I had in the past, like this 8011, this intake, fellas, has been one of the best intakes I've ever seen for not having to do a lot of work to it. It's just a stock replacement intake, and it's a Wheatland, or Whitland, however you want to pronounce it, 8011, and you can't buy them anymore. But they have other intakes. The stuff would be the next thing up to this. But my son had the stuff on a combination the same as this on another car, and he said he could tell the difference in the bottom end. He didn't like it. I myself, I like them. But then again, it depends what cam you have with it and everything. So that covers this one. You guys mostly know that I run the 8011, and this is the car that I'm working on to try to get back in the 1080s. And the motor was in the other car, and it went 990, I believe, or 980. I can't remember which one, but it's in the 9s with a dual plane intake. And to be honest, I didn't do a lot to this intake. My son liked how it worked so well, he didn't want me really doing much to it. And I was on a fear factor with it, to be honest, because it did work that well. So very little's been done to this thing, all but a little bit of cleaning up in the runners and things where the air would have tendency to kind of not want to make a turn on a runner. Just them little things like that, guys, just a clean up, basically. So that covers that one. So then, this car over here also has a stick. And we came across this intake for our friend used, and it's the same one. But the difference between this intake is somebody had taken the divider completely out of it. So we didn't know how it was gonna act on the engine. If it would lose bottom end. Automatic car I'd be more concerned about, but this is also a stick. So far, it's very responsive, even with the whole divider gone. We did have to modify it because whoever did the divider, probably somebody experimenting, it wasn't really professional. It was left all jagged. So that covers the Wheaton 8011s, and you'll hear me talk about that intake a lot because I love it. But now what we have, guys, I had one of probably the first RPM air gap intakes that they made when they came out. I can't remember how many years ago that was. My son actually bought this intake for his car, and then he never used it. I wound up with it, and it wound up on all my stuff. So I was actually doing work to this intake, and a guy jumped on the forum and said, you gotta be careful because you'll mess that intake up. You really know you gotta know what you're doing with that intake. Well, I'm gonna tell you guys something. These intakes are a mess inside too. I wish I had the carburetor off of this to show you, because this is back on my son's car. And to be honest, this is basically a perfect match car according to Edelbrock. It has their heads, which came on an engine that came with this car when we bought it. And it has the Edelbrock cam and then this air gap. So it's pretty well matched according to their standards. But getting back on the Edelbrock RPM air gap intake here, all down in the plenum, I had to take emery cloth from all around the divider in the middle. It was so sharp, so beveled, where the intake comes back off the plenum is real low, and then it goes back, and it's a mess inside, guys. How much does it affect it? How much does it pick up? I don't know. I know this car screams for what it is. I don't know what this car turns wise as far as quarter mile numbers, but I know the engine, it really puts you back in the seat. And this was another $100 engine, guys. We found this engine out of a car that the guy was building a stroker motor for. He was having the machine shop do it, and my son asked about this engine sitting there. He goes, the guy just pulled that out. I'm doing the stroker for him. I got the motor for I think 100 or 150 bucks. And the only reason it's apart, my son's doing upgrades to it. It's been sitting for, I guess, close to a year already. But it takes time when you're working full time and doing other things besides work. Even you have your family involved, and he has a couple daughters, and he devotes a lot of time to them. So, but anyway, I was just hoping this would give somebody an idea. So what you want to keep in mind, guys, when you're picking an intake, keep in mind if it's an automatic car, if you need the bottom end there. Keep in mind that your RPM band that you're looking for and your compression. Like a lot of these intakes, you have to be careful because they actually tell you that you need at least 9 to 1, 9.5 to 1. I've seen in some cases where it's not that crucial. Like if you have a camshaft agreed in and you do it on the tighter side and advance it up, then you can work around all that. So don't let it scare you off too much. But I'm just saying, on a rule of thumb basis, just try to keep that in mind. Weigh all your options out, and keep in mind what you're trying to accomplish with why you're buying that intake. If it's a street car, you need a bottom in there with not too much gear in the car. And any dual plane is going to be where it has bottom end. You might not have it exactly off the start as quick, like with something from 15 to 6,000 or 65, as you would like with a Performer. But you can work around all that stuff, guys, with a spacer. Like you can put a 4-hole on the 8011. That's what we ran on that, and it helped that out. And there's just things like that you can play with. So I thought I'd bring that to your attention too. But keep in mind, it being an automatic, if you have no converter, if you're just throwing something together, and a little Performer on something like stock, like an old Mustang or just anything that you're doing on the stock side, you can put like a Performer on there or an Action Plus, and then you can also experiment with the spacers. So I have a lot of information on that stuff, guys. It's just too much to go into on a segment. When I get suited with this other camera that I'm planning on putting together better segments and longer segments where I don't have to worry about the minutes on this phone. So I hope this is helpful to some of you guys. And I appreciate your comments once more. And if there's anything I can help you out with, fellas, just shoot me a message and I'll try to help you. All right, guys, have a good night. Take care.